Hello and welcome to the Worldwide Slot Car Chat. I think it's number 236 or something. We've done a lot of them, that's the point. But listen, everybody's here. We got Tony, Dwan, Mike, Jeremy, Don, Dennis. Oh, we got Luff, Garth, Tom, and I guess that we will get other people, as our fearless leader would say. So why don't we start off with, show and tell. If you've got anything to show and to tell. I wonder if Tony's hosting recovered from his hernia.
I've got nothing.
What?
I'm saving up for Christmas. I've got orders.
Oh.
I've got pre-orders on order, but nothing's coming.
Okay, cool. Oh, Jeremy, please, by all means, sir.
Hey, I have something. So this is a Spirit. Let me see if I can turn the light off here. This is a Spirit Reynard. This was, I'd say, 10, 15 years ago this came out. And this was one of my favorite cars because at the time in our club, everybody was racing Slotis. And I was just looking for something different. And all of a sudden, this car just started dominating. It was beating all the slotted Porsches of the time. But the one flaw it had was the tail section. If you sneezed on it funny, it would break off. So what I did back then was I put a magnet on this side and this side, and then I had a magnetic thing. So if anybody hit it, it would just flop back on. But being bored the other day, I decided to start making a new one that was just made out of the flexible rubber material. So although nobody probably has their own wish list for a Spirit Reynard wing, I don't see that as a high seller because hardly anybody has it. But anyway, that was my thing, is that quickly threw it up, and now I don't have to worry about the magnet or it breaking. It's tear proof finally. That was
How
was
much
the only
work
thing.
is it to make those?
Like to print them is just 15, 20 minutes, but the design process, like mine looked terrible compared to Garth. Garth is a wizard with design, and his will look exactly like it is, whereas mine is just still simple. But on this one, it's just a flat square, so it doesn't have to be much. It's not part of the focal part of the car. But and that
Yeah.
I mean that took me like an hour or so to get it fleshed out right.
And does it fit exactly where the
Yeah.
OEM one fits?
It fits exactly where the OEM one. It has like a donut that goes down over the chassis part, and then it fits perfectly fine.
Cool.
Yeah. But then
So
again,
they're going to be on your Jaded Parts website.
I don't think so, because I just don't imagine anybody actually wanting one. But I mean, if people...
Oh, that's why I was asking, because that could be the easiest way to order one.
Oh, okay.
Or
Well,
two.
I just don't think there's enough demand for it. I mean, I'm maybe if I get bored, I'll put one up there and see what it does. But I like the Carrera ones I made. Those are probably very popular because there's tons of people with. But I just don't know how many people still own these or even drive them to this day. But maybe there will be.
Yeah, but they're relatively simple to do, though. If you have a few designs,
yeah, I know,
you might be able to.
Maybe.
Are the struts integral with the wing?
So there's a strut. It pushes onto the top of the chassis. There's like a little nub that like a donut that goes around. Yeah. And then there's 1 millimeter struts that are also unbreakable, so they can bend. And then this part's
so that's formed at the same time then.
Yeah, it's all printed in one large piece, and yeah, so far the 1 millimeter design is kept it nice and flexible and still light enough so it doesn't stand out. And I just kind of got lucky when I designed this one. I hit this one with the first attempt, and I was like, well, there we go. So sometimes you get lucky.
I'm surprised Garth hasn't designed one for the Lancia yet.
I'm sure he's got stuff he's brewing on. He's got a lot going on. All right, that was me.
Cool. That's awesome. I would put it up. You never know. You never know what's going to sell.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm waiting impatiently for the Ferrari Can-Am car, the Thunderslip. No, not that one. The 488 by Sideways, because the kit that I've got didn't come with the struts for the wing, so I'm wingless at the moment. I've got nothing but a wing, no struts.
Well, hopefully a wing and a prayer.
Nah, I don't believe in imaginary friends.
Oh, that's cool though. That's awesome. As I said, Jeremy, I'd give it a shot. You never know, buddy. But what do I know?
I would expect they would be, if you do it for popular cars that break them all the time, it might, it might be worthwhile. I mean, it's pretty hard to come by a lot of them. I mean, as spares.
Yeah, all of the Spirit is one of them. The electric LMP cars, the originals, like the MG Lola and those ones. A lot of those we used to break the wings a lot.
Yeah, there was a design period where they would make those things solid and just no give. Like I know Slot It now has like their two-piece, or they've got like pivot points on the wing, so it has a little shimmy in it, but still not enough to take an impact. So.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a shot. What the heck?
Yeah, all right.
That's cool.
It doesn't cost anything to put it up there, and if it doesn't cost much to make them, what the heck? Got nothing to
and
lose.
if it doesn't take a lot of time, you can just wait until you get an order and then print it and send it.
True enough.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole beauty of 3D printing.
Right. Yeah, you do them on demand.
$5
Yeah, you don't have
for
to-
a wing.
I usually try to sell them for $5 a wing, and then the problem is shipping. Like I said before, it's like $4.50 for shipping.
Yeah, that's always the issue.
It's always the problem. So that's why I always tell people, like if you order 4 of them, the costs come down to about $5 per item with shipping. But then there'll still be guys who order 1, and I'm like, okay, dude, you're killing me here. I mean, it's no big deal, but it's just like I've had people order 1 and then a week later order 1 more. I'm like, you could have just saved yourself half the amount if you'd just pulled the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's always those guys.
Well, just be advised that if you have any Canadian orders right now, Canada Post is on strike, so you can't get anything moving at all. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, they're all high on maple syrup. Or
Everything
something,
is shut down for Canadian Post then?
just for
Canadian
just for Canada Post.
official
So
post,
you can
yeah.
still use a courier, or Amazon will still deliver because they have their own delivery service.
That's probably why they have their own delivery service right there.
But that's why. Exactly right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure, yeah. Ironically, Pure Later in Canada is owned by Canada Post, but they're still going. So just be advised, if you've got anything either in the pipeline, or if you're thinking of putting something in, don't wait till this disruption is over.
There is something interesting. I don't know if this affects any of us, but if you do painting with brushes for like slot car stuff, if you use Kolinsky Sable brushes, you can no longer get those in the United States. A Kolinsky Sable is a creature, an animal found in Russia and China. It's kind of like a rat that they don't care. So they use it for the best brushes you can get for small detailed painting. But in India, they have a mongoose that is it's on a protected list because they want it to kill cobras. But people have been killing mongoose, and then they've been relabeling it as Kolinsky Sable to get them shipped to other parts of the country. So the U.S. Wildlife Protection now, whenever you import Kolinsky Sable, they hold your item, and there's a fee they charge you in order to get it through customs now, even if it's legit. So people who are barely making money on little tiny paintbrushes are not going to pay twice as much to get it into the U.S. So there's just essentially a ban on getting those paintbrushes now in the U.S. But it may not affect a lot of us here. I don't know how much detailed painting you guys do. So that's my tip of the day. Get it from Canada and drive to Canada.
Oh, we just use beavers.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jeremy. That's awesome. As I said, I think you're going to be surprised. You're going to get some orders for those. And anyone else have any show and tell? Anybody? No.
No, not today.
Oh, okay. I have one thing, and it's I don't know if it's a show and tell or if it's more like a game show question. Has there ever been a full-size slot car that you can actually ride in? Now, first of all, that sounds like fun, but has that ever anybody?
Not that I know of, but there's been a Lego car that was actually driven.
Yeah, but there was a competition. Was it in London some years back where they actually created some full-size slot cars that were
Jeez.
driven by people in a helicopter?
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, well, there was actually something done, believe it or not, in 1964 and 65. I got to show you this by the Ford Motor Company, and it was at the World's Fair. And what Ford combined with Disney to create this ride, and I don't know if you can see it right here, folks, but you see the slot?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. These were full-sized slot cars, and it wasn't just Mustangs. They had Galaxies, they had Lincolns, anything that they made as a convertible, and that was one of their pavilions at the World's Fair. And these cars, believe it or not, I'll just show you here. There's the guide. It has a guide blade.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Now, the reason that this sort of came to light for myself was that if you're a fan of Jay Leno's Garage, these cars were actual real cars. And the only cars that they didn't pull the engines and transmissions out of to make this work were the Mustangs. And they all had 6 cylinders with automatic transmissions. And unfortunately, they couldn't sell them to the public once they sort of literally welded a guide to it. So they sold them to Ford employees who would buy them. And believe it or not, Jay Leno this week was driving one that basically had the guide cut off, and you can see the weld marks. It's really, really kind of cool.
Was the guide tied to the rack and pinion on there? So it actually, did it say?
No, actually, it was almost like an Ackerman steering. So the steering would just go on its own. It was really kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, cool.
So there you go. I thought I would share that because I think that's really kind of cool. I mean, there's a piece of trivia for you.
So full-size slot cars.
Full size, yeah. And the other, it's funny because they did it in the World's Fair in 1964 and 65, and they kind of went to school with what happened in 64 when they pulled the cars around and people would get out, and then they had about a minute to refresh them because people would leave cigarette butts and stuff in them. And then they realized that most people had tried to take all of the knobs off the dash. So they kind of went to school and went, okay, we just won't put these on here.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what are you going to do with them?
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess it's souvenirs, I guess, but nobody had the cars yet. It was like 64 and 65.
Oh yeah, I suppose.
Right, so you didn't have the car. They wanted a piece of a Mustang.
Interesting.
Hilarious, just hilarious.
Yeah, it was crazy how popular the Mustangs were.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a generational vehicle, and it transcended economic strata. It didn't matter if you're a millionaire or just a secretary. Everybody wanted one.
Yeah.
So I can't find the video, but I found a little piece about the full-size slot car track.
Oh, cool!
And it said Renault created a full-size 1.9-mile-long electric slot car set on the streets of London, with 2 of its electric ZOE cars running around in the slots. The cars were controlled by 2 contest winners who were flying above London in helicopters to take command of the giant electric slot cars.
Oh, jeez.
Did
anybody come out of the slot?
Don't think so.
Now you know how our little drivers feel, right?
But I didn't want it to turn that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's why our little drivers are so stiff. They're already petrified.
Yeah, unfortunately, the video, for whatever reason, it says it's unavailable because it's private. So presumably there was some other. Maybe there's a localization issue there or something.
Too bad.
Anyway, yeah, I remember seeing that.
Well, I guess if that's it for show and tell, I guess we can move on to our club corner. Anybody been doing any racing?
Yeah, I raced on Monday.
Oh.
It was not the greatest. We're still having issues. We did a couple of tests on it, and If we have two drivers, even with the ghost cars, it works fine. Three drivers out periodically. Four drivers, it's about every laps or so, and sometimes more often that it just loses control of the cars and they just go nuts. And I still haven't found the reason, so I'm systematically going to go through and see. I'm finally going to get a dedicated computer for it and make sure that it's only used for that. It's not on the internet, and there's nothing going on there. So at this point, it's a guess as to what is happening, but I'm going to focus on the computer part of it and see what happens with that. So I'm going to purchase another. I'm going to use another email address and purchase the RCS 64 program again to make sure that it's not my particular version that's corrupted, and see what happens with that.
What, do you think it's? I mean, I'm not a digital person, but is it a function of the power of your computer? Like if your CPU isn't fast enough, or you don't have enough RAM, is that
No, it's a really pretty fast computer. It's only a couple years old, and it's really quick. But I don't think that's the issue, because RCS 64 was running even on, I think, Windows 7 or 8. So it was, it's not like it has that much going on with it. This is something that's interrupting the flow going on. I've tried various things, both the power bases, 2 different power supplies. In fact, Jeremy, what was the generator you were saying that you should get? Is it an outside power generator? What is it?
Yeah, like if you look on like Harbor Freight for their generators, they have two kinds. They have a regular generator, and then they have an inversion generator, which has a DC motor built into it. They're not quite as powerful, but they're more efficient, and they give you clean power out of it. A regular generator, you're not supposed to use your laptop with, because you can get weird power fluctuations through there. But an inversion generator is fine, because it stabilizes the power.
Well, I don't think the issue is the power to the.
I think the power in your place out there is the problem. I think that's giving you weird sine waves.
You think so?
I'm just guessing. Like if you've gone through everything, the only thing you haven't gone through is running a power line from your house to your track, and see if that fixes it.
That's actually an idea I could use, because I've got a generator. I can use a generator to power the slot car track.
What kind of generator?
And see if it makes any difference.
No, yeah. It shouldn't affect your laptop runs on battery, so that shouldn't be a problem. But don't run your laptop off your generator.
No.
Okay.
No. But I could change the power that goes to the power supply, if that's the problem.
That's what I was thinking. Try that.
Yeah.
Nope, no guarantee.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So, it can't be the power that's going into the computer.
Somebody should tell Dennis. Dennis, your camera's still on.
Oh, he knows. We're getting a tour. We're getting a tour.
Okay. your microphone's muted, but your camera's on. There you go. Just letting you know.
Well, Dennis just needed a comfy chair. That's all.
That's all.
So anyway,
and a snack. Oh boy, he's guy's styling. He's styling now.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Dennis. You're muted, but that's okay.
One thing that happened when we tried to do shorter 4-person race is we had one of the guys. We had it was 50 laps. I think it was a 50-lap race, if I remember correctly. But it would require one pit stop, and the fuel would use somewhere between 35, 30 laps. You'd have to stop for fuel, depending upon how it was going. And one of the guys decided he was going to do an early fuel stop, and the rest of us just kept on going until we were almost out of fuel, and then we'd make a quick stop. And he almost pulled it off. I beat him by about 3 inches to the line, but it was close. It was really close. I got him on the. Luckily, I hit the outside lane and I got him on the around the outside just as we crossed the line. It was inches. It was so it was a really fun race, and it was a new guy that we've now got 4 guys. So and he's loving it. And the car that he raced was the Shadow, and he says I'm taking that car home. He loved it, absolutely loved it. So, and he's having a good time. So I'm hoping that he'll be regular, and he's been here a few times. He missed one because he had other stuff going on, but I'm hoping that we can do that. But I want to fix my other stuff. My plan was to do an oxygen race along with it and race the hypercars that I've got, because I now have 4 hypercars that I got 2 Porsches and a Cadillac, and then of course the slotted ARX-05 Acura. So I've got 4 hypercars, and I was going to race those oxygen. But with all this mucking around, we didn't get time to finish it off. So next week that's going to be on the agenda because I don't know. Have you guys seen the new Jota Porsche 963 that Scala Auto came out with? Have you seen that? The gold one? I'll go grab it. I thought I showed it already, but
was that the one? Was that the one with the Hertz livery, Mike?
yes, that is.
Okay, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, we showed that
so you did
last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Pre-order.
Oh, pre-order. Okay, so hopefully your postie is doing his sit-ups.
No, that postie's all right.
Anyway, awesome. It was still fun.
I'm just worried I'm not going to get any Christmas cards from Canada now.
Yeah, we carved them out of wood.
Yeah, it'll be post-Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, are you done, Mike? Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Well, Jeremy, how about you, sir? You have your hand up.
Our club had a fun event race that it wasn't for points or anything, but it was a team race. And we did slotted Group C, which is box stock except for tires and guide, and then NSR Classics, which is also box stock but tires and guides are allowed. Now, one of the things we did was we don't really hold many team events because it's never fair or balanced. So the owner of the track decided the teams. He took like the best driver in the club, paired him with the worst driver, and then the next and the next. And so that got me thinking. I'm sure other clubs have done team races, but how do you keep that balance? I have a thought in my head, which was to have I used to have a design. I used to design board games, but I wasn't the primary designer. I just kind of helped with them. So I've got to see a lot of rules, and I thought you could do something like the first race could be an IROC race where you take 4 cars, put them on the track and have people move through the track and the cars stay on the lanes. After that event, you could take the median times of everybody to kind of see, who's better, who's worse, and sort it that way and put the best and the worst driver together for the second race, but take the worst team by points and let them pick which car they want to take for an actual race now. Because that way everybody gets to see how good the cars are or how bad they are. And the worst team would have the advantage by taking the best car out of the field, and that would be theirs to move around. And that would be the second race for the team event. I think that would be a little more equitable or fair and balanced. That's my attempt. But if other people have better ideas, I'd love to hear them. Crickets. Gotcha. I'll stick with my plan.
So okay, but let's just so you're trying to find the best team of drivers rather than the best builder of cars, then, right?
Well, I just want to have a fair race because, like, if Dennis and if Dennis and Jim Rose are on the same team, and like me and John Kitt are on the second team, we probably don't stand a chance. No offense, John, but we probably don't stand a chance.
You're right.
But if we split that up and go, I don't know, between Dennis and Jim, who's got the better handle on it, and then between the two of us, which one's the worst, it would kind of help balance it out. Because the best driver, he's going to get extra laps, whereas the worst driver, he's going to get less laps. And you're hoping to get something where it's a close race down to the end. I just, like on our first race, the team I was on, we won by 3 laps. And then on the second race, I got a terrible car because I forgot to bring mine, so I had to get a loaner, and we lost by 3 laps. And that was, to me, that just said, oh, okay, car selection here was more important than team. I'd like all things to be considered. So there's no advantage for having a great car, no advantage for being a great builder, and no advantage for being on the team with the best driver. Like if you're a medium ranked driver, you could kind of fake your way on the first race, have a terrible race, and then get to be with the top guy and then win it all. So I'm just trying to figure a way out to balance that all.
See, you took my next question right out of my brain. What do you ever think that people would kind of sandbag so they get the advantage?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't put anything
would.
past anybody. But that's what I'm trying to
that
figure out how
happens.
to eliminate that and get it by. Now maybe this time we do it by median lap time. Maybe next time it's by something else, like best average lap, or maybe it's by best lap, worst lap. And I would have to mix it up, but not tell them until after we pick the teams, because that way if they jake, and take it easy, they might get on a crappier team. So I do want to punish people who do that. So I was hoping other people had ideas, but if not, I'll keep researching it.
Well, I could tell you what.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dennis.
No, okay. We have this kind of irregular coming together race at a friend of mine's place down in Lake Forest, and we normally have 12 to 15 guys. It's a 3-lane track. He provides all the cars, so you never run your own cars. That's one difference, I guess. But what he will do is he'll provide 3 cars. Everybody runs those 3 cars, 2 minutes a lane, and we keep track of, everybody's laps and sections. We add them all up at the end, and we'll get a list of people. Obviously, it's possible to be sandbagging and not get great laps, but in general, the inherent competitiveness of slot car races means that when you get on the track, you're going to try your best to beat the guy next to you. Anyway, so once we've got the 10 or 12 guys or whatever it is, sorted from fastest to slowest based on total laps, then we set up teams the way that Jeremy was saying. The fastest guy with the slowest guy, and one in the middle, and the second fastest with the second slowest, and another one from the middle, kind of thing. So we make up teams of 3. And then we run a longer event or a longer race with each team of 3. They choose one lane for each driver. So the drivers only run one lane, but they run 8 minutes. And that 8 minutes is divided into 2 sections of 4 with 2 different cars. And there will be different cars to the ones that we used for the 2-minute qualifying heats. And so the host provides these cars. So the cars stay with the lane, but you have 2 different cars. I mean, sometimes we'll run, for example, Carrera trucks, those fancy drag racing trucks with the big wings out the back. We'll run those for 4 minutes, and then straight after those, at the 4-minute mark, we'll pause the race, and we'll swap them out for Scalextric Formula One cars and put them on and run those. So you get 2 completely different kind of cars that you have to drive in your 8 minutes.
Now, sorry, Dennis, are those cars really stock, or have they been reworked in any way?
Oh no, they've all been reworked a little in terms of tires, and he runs magnets on everything, so they've been tuned up a little bit so that what he tries to do is at least get 3 cars that are of equal performance each time. But the sorting of the drivers from taking the fastest guy with the slowest guy, and then the second with the second slowest, and so on, that tends to even out the teams very well. And so we get very close results over that period. With the guys that all the teams are just a couple of laps apart. Works pretty well.
We did 200 laps total, and we were within 3 laps the whole time, so it's not bad. It's just
that's
looking to
pretty
see
good.
how other people did it, see if there was a better way to do it. But
I don't think. You're always going to get, number one, you're always going to get somebody, certainly after a couple of races, some people like to sandbag a little, Secondly, in any one evening, you're going to get guys who are on and guys who are off.
Sure.
You know, some guys will be really on. Other times they just won't be as good. So we don't see the same teams be getting together every time we race at all, because everything fluctuates a little.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll come up with something. One thing we did was we let the teams pick how they wanted to race as long as they kind of mixed it up. And so my strategy was to, since I had the better car than my partner, I said, why don't you take the inside lanes and I'll drive the gutter lanes. And that when we won our first race, after the second race, everybody started doing the same thing we were doing. They picked their guys and said, okay, you drive the gutter lanes. So there was a little bit of strategery in that regard, but other than that, it was a fun time, but it could always be improved.
I think the big thing about any kind of team race is the interaction between the team members.
Yeah.
And if you've got fast guys and slow guys in the same team, the fast guys will help the slower guys, and they do get better as a result.
Yeah, that certainly did come up a lot. Like I would tell my teammate, don't chase that guy. You just stay ahead of this guy, and we should be fine. But because otherwise they get into their head like, I'm falling behind, I got to keep up, and then they start wiping out. So it did help both of us. It gave me a little patience, and it gave him a little more understanding of what his goals should be.
Cool. Now, Jeremy, were you envisioning this for analog as well as digital, or just analog?
Just analog is what we're doing. Digital, I'm sure they can do much more different things. But
digital, you've got the advantage of being able to adjust the fuel levels. Yeah. And in oxygen, you can adjust the power levels too. So you've got lots more tools for balance and performance.
Gotcha.
What I do is, since all the cars are mine that we race, I will set them up and pick cars that are pretty much comparable. But if one of them turns out to be, outside the box, so to speak, and I will base the balance of performance on my lap times, not on the other guys, because that made the same person is doing it. So the lap time is capable. Whether they can do it or not is another thing. And then, so I'll pick 4 cars, set them up so they're within a tenth or a tenth and a half of each other. Make sure that that's going on, and improve them if necessary, since I am the FIA.
Well, here's a question, Mike. Do you improve the ones that are lacking, or do you take the ones that are better and bring them down?
No, I improve the ones that are lacking as much as I can. I mean, there's some inherent things, because I try to have a different car for each person. I don't do. I have done IREC. There are some sets of cars. I've got like 3 Maserati Trofeos. I've got 3 of those. There's a GT4 and a GT3, but they're essentially the same car. So I put them all in the same class, and those are exactly the same, and they're set up nearly exactly the same. Of course, they're different because the motors are different. But in that case, it's straight up the same. But I don't really try to do that. I try to pick cars that are in the same class. Like if I do 50s Formula One cars, I'll do. Well, there's a couple Scale Electrics that I've got. There's a couple of Mincos that I've got. But I will set them up so that they're as best as I can get them. And then when I set them up on the day of the race, I will improve the lowest car as much as I possibly can, whatever I can do to do that, but try to keep them. And then we choose the cars by lot. We'll hide them. I'll set 4 in a row, and we'll shake dice and get to know who picks first, and they blind pick the cars. So, they don't know who's going to pick first. They don't know, which car is which until the end. So what
you're trying to determine is a driver's sort of
right.
championship.
I want it to be the driver, not the car.
Right.
I mean, it's because most of the guys are not going to buy. They're not as much into this aspect of it as I am. So that's the reason that I provide the cars and do it, and also they're not as adept at the computer part of it, though I question my own ability in more than once. So they're not as interested in that part of it. So they do have some of their own cars, and we have run their cars, but most of the time, in order to get a variation of cars, I will put them in there. And then if there's a discrepancy, if it looks like one particular car is just going too slow, well, I'll give it a little bit more fuel, or I will drop the power on the fastest one to try and compensate.
So you'll not only adjust the car physically, you'll adjust its parameters within the drive. Okay,
right.
Gotcha.
For in RCS 64, for instance, there's the controller has a curve that you can change in the program itself. So there's various top end powers, and it's linear up to that top end power. So they're in 10 number increments. It doesn't mean anything as far as that. It's just 10 numbers, and you can drop them down, and it usually is about 0.3 of a volt drop as you drop the thing. So it's just enough that it won't kill you, but it will hurt you. And you know, there's other aspects of it. In oxygen, you can reduce. You can have a power loss when a car crashes, so it puts a premium on staying in the slot. So if you fall off the slot once, it's worth a pit stop to go in. It's enough power loss that it's worth a pit stop to go in and get rid of that, and then try and stay on the track more. So it brings strategy much more into the fore, and that's the interesting thing about it for me. I know I've told you about the podcast. It's not the car. One of the guys on there is a race engineer and is really, really interesting for me, at least, because he goes through what the things that you think about during a race and what the strategies can be. And I like that aspect of it because it's not just, you know, the guy with the fastest finger and the fastest car was winning all the time. And that's one of the reasons I'm not real thrilled with my 124 scale races, is because you have the same guys vying for the win every single time. And we have Mike Ratby, one of the guys, is known for not being a good qualifier, but he will kick ass on the race, and he always stays in the slot. So he frequently has done where he'll end up in a B main and win the race and get moved up to the A main, and then he'll come in first or second in the A main besides, you know, because of his ability to keep it in a slot and control his driving. So he's a really good driver. But for the most part, that's one of my issues. I'm old enough to not be that quick anymore. And I'll tell you, when you've got, you know, cars that are pushing 3 seconds for 123 feet, it's too fast for my eyes and hands. It really is. I can't hit my marks well enough to do it. So I don't ever expect to be a winner in that regard. But you get tired of, you know, being there and not being able to do anything. And the same guys win every week. And since the owner of the track puts up money, you know, you pay $10 to do it, and he adds money in the pot. So the same guys are winning every week. You know, they're getting extra money doing that. And he doesn't want to really change the format, which is, to me, annoying. But, you know, it is what it is. If I can poach enough guys there, I'll have my own bunch. So that'll be fine with me.
It's always a problem when there's money involved.
Yeah, well, you know what? I bet you could do it. Just offer them snacks.
Yeah, I can do that.
Even the track bucks thing that some raceways do, I don't think that it's a good thing, quite honestly. But, you know, in the long run, Mike, one of the things you've got to do, and it's one of the things I learned too, is essentially I'm racing against myself. I keep records of what I do, and I try to improve on my own performance every week, either going faster or going more or going further, one or other of them. Without the records, it's difficult to tell, but you just need to keep some basic records of performance. And that's one way of keeping yourself motivated. Granted, the there are always those guys that win all the time, but that's life. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm
there are
not.
always guys younger than us, or
Yeah,
I
see,
take pleasure in everybody, in beating anybody, especially if they're younger than me.
Yeah, well, that's going to be tough. In this case, we've got a kid that's 11 years old that's finishing second and third in some of the bigger races, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
But they always say that age and treachery beats youth and exuberance any time. So
Yeah,
yeah, you've just got to learn to cheat a little better.
yeah,
Anyway.
true enough.
A little larceny goes a long way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason my preference is for the strategy. I'm better at the strategy. I will often figure that out. And I was really, really impressed that Joel thought about that. He's only raced with us 4 times, and he's already figured out. He still has trouble with the sequence of pit stops and which one you press and that stuff in order to get the program to work. But he did figure out the strategy that might work for winning that race, and he did quite well.
So once he gets the mechanics down, he's going to be really good then.
Right. He's also much more used to the big track that we've got. So my track is a lot shorter with a lot shorter spurts in between. So you have to have much better control of your finger to make it around the shorter corners quickly, but not so quickly that you're sliding it out all the time. And on the big track, sliding is not as much of a deal. It's better to be cleaner, but on the little track, sliding is a big deal. The cleaner you can make it on the little track is much more important, because you can use on a slide, you can use 2.5, 3/10 just on sliding out on one particular corner.
And it's no different than real cars.
True enough.
The saying in racing school is, if you're sliding, you're slow. Yep.
Didn't used to be that way.
No, exactly. But then they had bias ply tires that were the width of my nose.
Yes.
When the tires were skinny and the drivers were fat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. The drivers were the downforce.
Oh. Yeah. So anyway, that's
cool. Well, thanks, Mike. That's awesome. Dennis, you did some racing, I hope.
I did indeed, but I see that Dewan's got his hand up, and I don't know whether he's going to cover the same stuff as I am.
Well, before you two continue, Dewan's shirt again is just epic. I mean, look at that. That's so cool.
Before we get, I assume you guys are going to talk about the race at Electric Dream. Can we take a quick commercial break and we'll come right back?
Sure.
All right. Welcome back. John, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you, Jeremy. And now we were talking, Dewan, that's a really good idea, because, we should actually start with just the 2 wires first.
Absolutely. To go to the very basic beginning
With
world.
the doorbell button.
So, well, yeah, because Skeletrix, that was their first controller. You're right. It was an on-off switch. Yeah.
And VIP and a couple of others were like that right at the beginning. Just the button.
Yep.
And you had to modulate the button to modulate the speed.
Right.
Yep.
That's exactly my style of driving.
I assume that kind of controller just had a break in the loop. It just
that's all it was.
Back on and off. Okay.
It was just on and off.
Yeah, I mean, when Dennis says it's a doorbell, he's not far off.
Oh yeah.
No.
No.
No. If you find some pictures of the early VIP race sets, you can see it. It was actually just a little round thing with a button in the middle of it. It was absolutely looked like a doorbell button. But it didn't take long before everybody realized that you needed a bit more control than that. And so that was when it started with a variable resistor. So basically, it was some little wound resistor with a wiper that was wiping across it. Some of them were inside your, cylindrical and inside your hand. Others were right from the beginning were some kind of trigger action. Some of them were double-sided resistors with double wipers on them. Some of them, in fact, I have one upstairs, which is a classic, made by Classic, with a big green box with a cable that came out of it, and at the end of the cable was a little handpiece with a plunger on it, and it drove this flexible cable all the way down back into the box and moved the wiper across the resistor that was inside the box. And the idea was to get the heat of the resistor out of your hand. Unfortunately, of course, what it also did was it created a lot of friction down this cable, and so it didn't return to its zero position very easily sometimes. But there
Dennis, sorry.
There were a number of solutions to this thing. Of the problem with any resistor controller is what you're doing is you're sharing the current between the resistor in the controller and the resistance of the motor in the car, and so it generates heat, and so after a while the resistor in your hand gets really, really hot. So then the very first thing that started to happen was that people started creating these different types of controllers to move the resistor out of your hand. And so eventually you started getting all the trigger controllers where the resistor was at least out of the way. Some of the early controllers made the mistake of having a metal trigger, which just meant that it was extra heat sinking for the controller. So instead of burning your whole hand, it just burned your finger.
Well, and to your point, Dennis, I mean, not only was there sort of an evolution as far as the actual electronics, but also the ergonomics as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the very early ones were these little cylinders with a plunger on the top, and they were operated by your thumb.
Yep, and one of the first companies to kind of take advantage of the sort of ergonomic shift was Rusket, because they had this wonderful ad campaign where like they went thumb numb and they went to here, needn't be.
Yeah.
And that was their solution.
Sure. And so that basically set the tone for the next 50 years, because they don't look any different now in terms of that basic. The internals are very, very different over the years. First of all, the Rusket controller was good because it moved the resistor out from inside your hand. Then after a while, people started making heat sinks to fit onto that resistor to keep it cooler. And then they started replacing the resistor with a wiper block with discrete steps that were all wired to a very large capacity resistor that hung on the wires below the controller. And eventually then people started saying, hang on a moment, there must be better ways of doing this, because the resistor controller, because I said as it is, it's a current sharing or a voltage sharing control system. Every time you change the specification of the motor, you tend to have to change the specification of the controller, because you have to match the resistances of the two. Otherwise, you don't get the right kind of control. If you run a 1/32 scale car where the motor resistance is probably, 18 or 20 ohms, and you try to run with a 1 ohm controller like you would for a wing car on a commercial track, you have absolutely no control, because as soon as you move the trigger, the car jumps at uncontrollable speed. Similarly, if you use a 25 ohm controller for a wing car, you have to pull it almost all the way to the end of its travel before the car will even move. So
I just found a printed article from one of the magazines back in the day here, and I could just show you. It's exactly what you were talking about, Dennis.
Yep, there you go. Cox controllers, most of those, except the little square one on the top right. That's
The
a
tower
tower
stat.
stat.
Yep. And
And
then here's the rusket.
yep,
Oh, I got to go the other way. I beg your pardon. Here we go. But there's the one you were talking about, the classic dual
yep,
controller.
that's exactly the one. Yeah, and it was a dual because it had a switch on it. You could change it from 25 ohm to 15 ohm, and that was something really special.
Now this one is really weird because it's a pistol grip for your thumb.
With thumb control, yeah. K&B made those, yeah. Now the MRC ones on the left side there, they were very nice. They had one that was variable. You had the
Right here, is
slide
this
on
the
the
one you're talking
outside.
about? Right here? Is this
that
the
you
variable
could,
here?
yeah, that's the one. You could vary that white slide on the back of the controller. Gave you an adjustment of the basic resistance of the controller, and then you had the adjustment. You had your normal speed adjustment on the, so you could match the controller to the car a lot better than you could any other way.
And
They were
look
very nice. They were extremely smooth in their operation, but of course they got as hot as anything inside your hand. And
well, look at the price though. I mean, it's more expensive than some of the slot cars.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They were really nice controllers.
Wow. Let's see if I've got anything on the
What I
next.
had proposed, what I had proposed was that maybe we could do 20 minutes per week or something like that for a series, um, to expand. Like you just touched bases on the typical resistance type controllers and how the evolution transpired to the current day controllers.
I mean, you could still buy resistance controllers to this day, and
Yes.
many of the cheaper, all of the racing sets that you buy, home racing sets, all have resistance control. All but Carrera. I think Carrera's thumb operated ones are actually electronic, but most of them are just a plain wiper and a resistor.
Well, let's not forget about our favorite Revell controller, Dewan.
Oh
Yeah.
So,
And I have several dozen controllers. You know, I have probably a dozen of the old Revell controllers, plunger controllers, and I have the thumb controller as well, that you refer to, the on-off, the translucent ones. And then I also have a ton of Cox controllers, some MRC controllers, and then I now go all the way up to the Falco, and then you get to these little babies right here, the SCP-3s with you know.
Now there's a way you can sort of level the playing field. You got to Jeremy's question. You have a really good driver. Give him 2 wires. See what he can do. And people who don't drive as well, give him a DeFalco.
That's going to be part of my little experiment or my experience when I get everything laid out. Is I'm going to have all these different controls and these different variations and plastic track and wood tracks and vintage and new type of stuff. So that we're going to be going through all that stuff to kind of get the whole evolution of the whole era of.
I did that a couple of times on my home track. Brought out a whole bunch of old monogram cars and 3 Cox controllers with thumb operated Cox controllers, and immediately banned anybody trying to drive the Cox controller with their finger, and made sure that they were driving it with their thumb. Because that was the first thing everybody did, is they held the controller and pressed it with it. So that's cheating. You got to drive it with your thumb. And it took a little bit of time, but they all had fun with it.
Can I give you a recommendation in the meantime, Dewan, for your driving? You said at home you're not using your DeFalco. Is the DeFalco the one you take to most events, though? You said that's the one you plan.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you're at home, you should obviously be using this controller, getting used to it. Don't keep switching back and forth. And if you're at home and you have to use a different controller, use your left hand. You're screwing around at home anyway. It doesn't matter, but you want to get your body and mind in sync with that one controller that you're going to be using out in the field. I think if you keep, I know when I switched from the DS1 to the DeFalco, I was terrible for like half a year to a year. It sounds stupid, but it was a different change and a different mindset I had to get used to. Now I'm back to normal. but I would use my left hand at home for when I'm playing with the kids and whatever I need to do.
This is the one that you got to use, Dewan. This is the best one ever.
Look like a mouse.
It was years ahead of its time.
Yeah,
the computer
was
wasn't
indeed.
there, but the mouse was there.
Yep,
Looks like
it
a
was
sewing
indeed.
machine controller. Like
It
that.
does, doesn't it? Yeah. And look at look at the price. $9 in the 60s was a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah. It was indeed.
Car was only like 6 or 7. 132nd scale Revell car was only,
Yep.
But to your point, Dennis, it is really fun to get a Cox controller and drive like a Cox Cheetah 132nd scale.
Sure.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. But I mean, as we said, there are a lot of resistor controllers out there still, and they serve a purpose because they're pretty rugged, especially nowadays. They're cheap, so yeah. Then I mean, we can talk about the progression. I mean, if it comes to talking about settings and how to use settings, basically that's sort of a very different topic, because that's going to depend to an extent on the controller itself.
But it's definitely a topic that's been around as long as the hobby, because again,
sure, yeah,
I'm dipping into my archives here, and I apologize, but here's an article just all about the different controllers. Yeah. So look, it's alphabetized.
If you think we have lots now, there were a heck of a lot more earlier on.
Oh yeah, look at that. I mean, the tower stat came in like from 4 to 20 ohms.
Yep.
Wow.
$2.75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a cheap little thing, but man, it was actually very smooth and not a bad little controller, actually. Very tiny in your hand.
And they lined them up like they were being arrested here. Look at this. Like, pick which one.
A lot of the in the early mid 60s, even the latest 60s, a lot of the West Coast pros were using tower stats.
Or Howie Ursula ran, won races with the
Oh yeah,
the tower.
And there was go back, John.
Oh, sorry.
That was when I was a kid. I worked in a hobby shop, and the MRC Very Power, which is in the bottom right, was on the shelf. And I couldn't sleep at night thinking I had to have one of these things. And we also had an HO. We had an HO drag strip in the shop as well. And I managed to win the HO drag series, and the prize was, I don't know what it was, $20 or something like that, maybe 15 in-store coupon. And I managed to get the MRC Very Power, and I just thought that was the end of. I couldn't get any better from here on in. That was a great control. I love that thing.
Wow. Okay, do you still have it, Chris? Do you still have it, Chris?
I have no idea where a lot of my.
I have one here, mint in box.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let me stop sharing. We got to see that. Oh man.
What does that go? What does that forget, Dennis? Does that go from 5 to 15?
This particular one goes from 2 to 5.
Okay.
And there was another one, which was this one is also mint, also in box, although the box is not very minted. That's just a standard 2. But the early ones were 5 to 15. And
yeah, that's what I had. Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the photo here. Okay, yeah. So here we go. Yeah, there you go, Chris. 15. Yeah, it goes from 5 to 15 right there. You're right.
Yeah, that's the one I had.
Wow.
It was like, I can't describe how wonderful I was when I got that. It's unbelievable.
Well, but here, take a look in this article. They show exactly what we're talking about. So there, as you were saying, Dennis and Chris, there's the resistors.
Yep.
Right. And then there's the Oh, here's Buzz. It's a Buzzco.
Yep.
And then
No.
here's my favorite right here, the Revell
There you
right
go.
there.
Yeah, the Buzzcos never really took off like the other ones did.
There's another one
Okay.
that took off at one point, and that is this type.
Oh, sorry, I'll stop sharing. I beg your pardon. There you go. Oh yeah, that looks like it looks like you can also shave with it.
It's the old Ram.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a couple of guys that we race with today that still use, one old guy still uses that old Ram controller.
Yeah.
Wow.
They work. They work
Basically, it was a piece of PC board with a resistor and a wiper and a bicycle handle on a piece of plastic tubing.
fine. Work great.
Well, yeah, and now we have the controller shown by I guess you can buy them from him, David Kai in France,
Uh-huh.
that has the readout, visual readout of the various settings and curves and all that stuff. Kind of next gen, I guess, maybe.
What else have I got here?
Maybe.
Over the next few weeks, I kind of want to reach out to different manufacturers and different experts and different people that can bring to the table the nuances of these new age controllers as we progress from the early days of the resistance controllers to, like I said, the ones that'll auto drive and parallel park for you.
I wonder if
A
anybody
lot
can.
of them. I mean, there's
Dennis,
certainly some good. There's certainly some good advances, but at the end of the day, it boils down to like a lot of things. I use essentially the same golf clubs that Tiger Woods does, but somewhere there seems to be a difference, and I can't quite figure out what it is.
An interface issue.
Yeah, no kidding. But Dennis, sorry, that controller you were just showing, my goodness, what in the world was that?
Oh, that's an old DeFalco, one of the very early ones. And basically what it is it instead of having the resistor inside the trigger or inside the handle, it just has a wiper block, and then underneath the wiper or hanging on the wires is a big high capacity resistor with all of these tap points. So as you press the trigger and you wipe across the wiper board, it connects or disconnects those wires and then sends it all the way down the wire to the track.
That looks like you need a ham radio license to operate.
Sure. At the other end, of course, it has a little box like this, which has a relay inside it. So when you get to full power, then it pulls the relay. Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff up here.
My favorites from way back when were the model motoring steering wheel controllers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And this is a Sidex Omni.
Power steering.
That looks like
This
an
is
electric razor shaver.
A Sidex, no?
Yeah.
Sidex, yeah. This is the first evolution beyond resistor controllers, where instead of having a variable resistor, they had a bank of diodes. So this became a voltage controller rather than a current controller. And as you swipe the wiper across it, it would cut the diodes in or out. So
that
very
looks like
similar.
it would just scare sheep.
Yeah, actually, really a pretty nice controller.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of adjustment to it. It had sensitivity. It had a speed range adjustment, and it had a brake range adjustment. There were these little slide switches on the side. Yeah, that's about it for now.
I came in late. I came in late. Has anybody shown an old MRRC blue plunger controller?
Not yet,
MRC
but
Blue
I can.
Plunger. No.
You got one of those, Dennis? There you go.
Oh wow! Look at that.
My first.
So you
my
get a
first-
feel for the size of it. It's actually quite small.
My
It
very
fits-
first commercial track controller.
It fits completely inside my hand.
Yeah.
Now, what made it the first commercial controller?
No, that was the first controller I had. I started racing in at commercial tracks,
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
and I used to, before I got another controller, I ended up having to wear oven mitts to hold the bloody thing because
And
I was
there's a
using motors.
this is a tower
Oh,
step.
there you
Oh,
go.
the tower stat. There it is. Look at that.
Great controller.
Weird little thing because it was, not very ergonomic at all. It was very tiny with actually quite a long stroke to it. But
Hey, do
fun.
you guys know how the electronics in those were built? I'm just wondering how hard would it be, because we could 3D model the outside and have like a retro controller for a day, but how hard would it be to redo the inside and make it work like the old ones did? Like, is there any exotic
Easy.
parts in there? Or it's pretty easy.
Nothing.
Oh, it's very, very simple inside.
Simple.
There's
Alright.
no electronics. Effectively, it's only a resistor and a wiper.
I found Chris's favorite controller. Here it is.
Oh,
No, those are the commercial track steering. No, the model motoring. They were little tiny things with the first model motoring HO sets.
Oh, they mean the Aurora ones. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me look. Hang on, sorry.
Little
The
beige plastic.
The most interesting thing about that photo you just showed, John, is that they're all there to have fun, but they're all in suits and ties. That is the greatest thing ever.
yeah.
They dressed up for fun days.
Absolutely.
Well,
They used to do that for sporting
Don-
events too.
Don's got one. Don's got one.
Yeah, if you
Oh,
go
there you
back
go.
to the all of the in the early mid '60s, all of the Team Rusket guys used to wear blazers and shirts and ties to race.
Mhm.
And I think I'm pretty sure that Electric Dreams in the vault somewhere has one of the original Rusket blazers.
Yeah, well, the slot car museum has, yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it's displayed there.
And
I think it was Len Vitucci's jacket.
And now people wear flip flops and sweatpants on a plane. It's outrageous.
Yeah. Okay. One moment, caller. This is for Chris again. Here it is.
There it is. Yep.
Sharp.
There they are.
Yeah, that's them.
That's at the NIAC.
And
That's
that's at
MISAC.
MISAC.
That's at MISAC. Yeah.
That's at MISAC.
One of the few sort of really nice color photos of their start finish. And
Yeah.
the thing I love too is look at the pits. Like that's just
Well, when they were racing at MISAC, the race controller had control of a set of slide pieces that would divert a car into the pits.
Yeah, but weren't they
So,
slid first to set up the configuration?
They would slide them to set up the configuration, but there were also other ones that were adjusted during the race to divert cars into the pits.
Oh, so because here's the control room up here, right?
Or somewhere around there.
Yeah,
They stood all
yeah.
over the place.
Wow. Very cool. I like this is a challenge. Talk about something else. Let me see if I can find it. Thanks, Mike. Dennis, you did some racing, I guess, along with Dewan this weekend. You guys were a little busy, huh?
Yeah, we were at the Electric Dreams for the NSR Western Nationals. I can share a screen and I have some photographs, just the ones that were sent. All right, so this is just a basic shot of a group of the guys around. Andrea Noviello, the guy in the middle, who's the CEO of NSR, who visited for the weekend. We had 41 entries total. And the Saturday was Concours and qualifying. Concours was won by a combination. The car belonged to Ian Douglas. The painter was Todd Ullery. These two guys painted each other's cars for this event, just to do something different. Todd painted the car that Ian ran, which was, these were all NSR Moslers, right? It was a one make, one body event. And this was a very, very pretty car, simple color scheme, very reminiscent of the IMSA Audi colors of the back in the day, of the red, white, and charcoal. Extremely good looking car. These were the guys who eventually ended up the top 6 at the end of all the racing. Andrea on the left, Ian Douglas on the second in from the left, Todd Ullery, Mike McClanahan, Herman James, and Jaden Pollard. Jaden's a new guy from Northern California, out of Modesto. His grandfather owns the commercial raceway up there, and he's one of the up-and-coming young guys. Mike is a local fellow, Mike McClanahan in the middle in the checked shirt, is a local guy who has really come on the last little while. Herman and Ian come from Northern California, and both of them were ISRA style and 1/24 scale slot races at some point in their lives. I think Todd, everybody knows him nowadays. He has again won the Electric Dreams Drivers' Championship for the year due to a very consistent high position finishes all the way through the year. And Andrea, of course, being the CEO of NSR, also a very good driver, like his father was. So Ian Douglas won the race. Andrea was second, just ahead of Mike McClanahan, who was third, then Herman, then Jaden, and Todd brought up the rear. I'm not exactly sure what happened to Todd because I wasn't there for the end of the race, but he kind of came in towards the back end of the top 6. Just a couple of other photographs of the guys as they finished up. All right, so this is the guy in the middle here is a fellow by the name of Paul Goronsky. Again, another 1/24 scale racer, but with a pedigree and a provenance second to none. Paul has won 4 different world championship events over the years, and he has a collection of 52 national titles, U.S. national titles in 1/24th and 1/32 scale racing, not 1/32 scale plastic cars. This was his very first attempt at plastic car racing over all the years that he's done it. The young lady on the left is Simona. It's Andrea's girlfriend.
How did he do in this format?
He made it into the semifinals. He didn't quite make it into the final. He was like about 7th or 8th, I think, overall. The whole format was that we had qualifying. Everybody got a 1-minute qualifier. Top 12 from that went into a second qualifier where they had 2 minutes. And then the top 6 had a third qualifier where they had 3 minutes each. The top 3 qualifiers went directly into the semifinals. The next 7 went direct into the semifinals. Then positions 8 through 13 of qualifying ran what we call a bump heat, and the top 2 of that heat went into the last 2 spots in the semifinals. So there were 2 semifinals of 6 drivers per race, from which the top 6 went into the main event final. All the supporting races were 3 minutes per heat. The final was 5 minutes per heat. I qualified 17th originally. No, where did I qualify? Yes, something like that. I managed to. No, I qualified 13th because I made it into the, or I came in. I made it into the bump heat, and but I came in last in the bump heat, so I finished 16th overall. This is Victor Dabrowski. He was the guy who did the all the race directing on the Sunday. Other than and Mark Natividad as the young guy, the guy on the left, interviewing Michael. He's kind of our roving reporter. He runs around doing interviews and things for the streaming, the coverage that we have of the race directing. And the podium. Oh, and then these are the some of the cars. The winning car from Ian with Todd's body. Second place was Andrea with a body that was done by James Maynan, one of our guys who's very good at this at hydro dipping. So this car has been completely hydro dipped. And then the third place was Mike McClanahan, who was running a stock body. So these are some of the cars close up. That's the one that was done with the
He does that
hydro
dipped all of that. I mean, except for the decals,
Yep.
obviously.
Yep, hydro dipped.
Does he do
Beautifully
that
done.
professionally, like commercially, or does he just do it for fun?
I think so. Yeah,
That is incredible work on that flag.
that's beautiful work. Yeah, it's wonderful work. Herman James's car, which is nothing particularly great. That's the one that Todd did for Ian, that won the concourse. This is another one that was in the concourse. I don't recall whose it was right now. Can't see the name on the back. There's a little white sticker on the wing there, which has a 3-letter acronym for your driver's name, so that they can identify the cars. This is the one that Ian did for Todd. It's pity Greg's not on, because Greg would be trying to bid for that one, I would think. And this one was Rick Eichhoff. He comes out of Philadelphia. He traveled all the way across the country for it. Also one of the concourse finalists. Very pretty car, beautifully done. And that one again, I don't recall the entrant. But that's just some of the cars. There were, there I think were 10 cars selected out of the field for concourse. This is Sean Travis's car, all hand painted. Sean is the guy who paints who painted that winner's podium that we have outside, and he did this. It's all hand done, hand painted on the outside and then covered with a clear coat. All right, that's it. So a fun event over 2 days, the qualifying and all that on the Saturday, all the heat races, semifinals and final on the Sunday. Everybody was done by about 4:30 or 5, I think. And it was a really good event. I'm sure that Dewan has a couple of personal comments to add to that, particularly seeing as he didn't come last in anything this weekend, which he's pretty happy with, I'm sure. So that's me for now.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. Well, Dewan, yeah, please give us a view from the driver's seat.
Well, Dennis raced. I just took a little space in the middle of the event. That's about the size of it. But yeah, I went there with high hopes. Well, higher hopes than what I ended up. And I didn't finish last, barely. But I had a car. Well, a week before the event, I went there with my car to try to get it finalized and everything. So, because we had a far out event, and I just came in a day early to go to Electric Dreams. And while I was there, uh, good old Walter Baines came over and says, "You look like you need some help," which I did. And anyway, he kind of took my car and looked it over and did some things, and he felt so sorry for what I was working with that he took it upon himself to keep the car and to work on it. And he even offered me one of his cars to as an alternative or as a uh, backup car. And so I get these notes from Walter saying that he got the car. He found out that it was a major problem was going on the car. It actually, the motor pod, the mount on the motor pod had cracked. And we couldn't see it while we were just, trying to figure out what was going on. But it was fast car, but it was just going around the track wobbling. It was just so bizarre. We couldn't figure out. We tried changing axles and wheels and just all this until he took it apart and found the crack in the motor pod. So that was the key thing. And he did his little magical tuning and everything, and he gave me some updates. And so on Wednesday, he sent me a text saying that he got 6.1 seconds out of my car, and he was going to start working on the backup car. But he said he gave my car to Michael McClanahan, and he got 5.91 out of it. So I had a car that was going under 6 seconds with these top drivers. And so I was really feeling. It put a real nice smile on my face for that. And then I got a text regarding the backup car. So bad. Well, no, when I got to the race on Friday, or got to Electric Dreams on Friday to do the practice around, Walter Killer, he said some really bad news. He says your your backup car is much faster than your original car. So that was the bad news. So I had a car that was going better than the 591 that McClanahan was able to put on it at my disposal. So I started my practice round, and I was really excited about it. I used my car, the car that Walter had touched up to, was, had all my parts and stuff like that. And when I got there, I was on the track, and I was doing 6.8, 6.7s, almost 6.7, 6.8s on almost all the lanes. And I just said, wow, I'm going to be in the middle of the pack this time around, because I was doing the practice sessions. I was seeing the majority of the guys doing 7s and 7.0s, and some of the people that I normally hang with, they were doing the 8s and things like that. And so I did the first 4 lanes, and all those 4 lanes I was doing on the 6.7, 6.8, 6.9s, and things like that for the first 4 lanes that we had gone through the practice round. And I'm on the 4th lane, and Walter says, you haven't tried the backup car yet, and he says a little bit better. You might want to stop wearing out your other car and just use the backup car. Wear not wear the motor out, but just so. I went ahead and put the backup car on, and it drove completely different than my car. And so one thing that I didn't do was look at my control. And I'm a complete novice when it comes to these fancy controllers, the Falcon controller, all the controls. I'm a complete novice, and that's going to be another subject I'm going to get to after I finish this little thing. But and so we start dibbling, dabbling, and turning knobs and everything to get the backup car kind of in tune with my driving and things like that. And I just wasn't feeling comfortable with it. And then I tried to go back to my car, and I didn't pay attention to what the controls were at from the first time around. And from that point on, I never, ever got the car to go into 7 seconds, period. As a matter of fact, it was so bad that I was barely able to get the car into 8 seconds through almost the entire practice rounds, going through until Saturday morning. I finally went and found a picture that I had of my controller and all the settings that I had it on from the MR Slot Car race or something like that. And so I went just dialed back to those settings because I knew I think that I knew those settings were because I took the controller from the last settings of the MR slot car race to start this race. So I knew that the settings were probably close to or just about the same as how I finished with the MR slot car. So I put it all back to that, and it felt better. It felt to more control, but it still wasn't. It felt better, but I wasn't getting the numbers that I was getting. I was getting the low sevens now. And so bottom line is, and I'll give you my little, I think I have it here. Yeah, that. So this was the race results. So, and I was coming out. I just had no, I just didn't have the consistency that I was having earlier. And one of the things, let me go back. One of the things that I noticed when I was having real troubles with the control with my controller, and that's what I'm blaming on, my controller, not my driving, was when I would get to the main straightaway from right before the lap counter. That's where this car is sitting right now. It's in front of the lap counter. But that straightaway going into the in front of the lap counter, I would come off my throttle, come off the throttle a little bit to slow down for the turn. So it's not a hairpin, but it's a decent sized turn, especially in the red line. But the car wouldn't slow down, and it would just slam up against the side of the track. So I think that what I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna talk about the controllers and some issues that I'd like to get explained to that. But I think that I had probably the min speed or the sensitivity, whatever you want to call it, dialed up so that it was almost at full throttle at half throttle, or going full speed at the half throttle up or something like that. That's my guess as to what was going on, but I never really got it hooked up properly. So anyway, first round I was in the blue lane and I got 21 laps. Pathetic. And my best lap was 7.2 seconds again. Pathetic. Okay. Now, then the second heat, I came up on the white lane and did even worse. 21 laps in 7.5 seconds. And I mean, everybody's doing doing well under 6. So really, really, again, pathetic. And then where am I now? In the red lane. So that's my worst lane is the black lane in general. But anyway, 7.4, 21 laps. And then here we go, coming back on green. So I improved a bit, got 23.5 laps, and lap time down to 7.1, which is again horrible. And then my last, I guess I have 2 more green, have yellow, and I got down to 7.061. I qualified with 7.0, 7.09, something like that. And I actually thought that I was going to be qualified in the upper 6s, but anyway, that'll put me in a whole different group. And then this is my worst lane again, the black lane. But I did more laps, 23 at 7.5. So anyway, that's my story. And so the follow up to this whole thing was I had reached out to Greg this morning, and I told him that I wanted to open up a topic that I thought might be of value to quite a few people in particular. And that was to have, my question to him was, I think we ought to have a 10-part series on slot car controllers. Because I mean, going back to starting from the real basics of the resistance controllers and the different resistors that were matched up with the different motors and things like that, get the basic concept of how that was all, how that all works, and just the basic science of it. And then going to the the controllers with the brakes, adjustable brakes, and this min speed and traction control and things like that. And I literally, you can see my DeFalco right here. And if you could, let me see if I can get it this way. Okay, you could see. Oops, nope, that didn't work out. Okay, here, the three knobs.
You might have to stop sharing.
Yeah, I think I may have to do that.
Yeah, you have to stop. Yeah, you'll have to stop sharing so we can see that. Yeah.
That's gonna be a challenge here too.
So the knob on the right is traction control. I think the knob in the center is brake, and then the knob on the left is sensitivity. Is that right?
Sensitivity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice the knob on the middle, okay, the middle knob actually turned out to be brake, as in accordance to Eddie coming over and laying down to giving me the whole gist of everything. But you'll see that in between that middle knob and the traction knob is the word brake.
Yeah.
But I'm a novice, so it's right smack dab in the middle of those two knobs. I don't know which one was brake and which one was so that.
Well, but because right on the right-hand side of the board there is two little letters that say TC, which is traction control.
Can I give you a tip for that, Juan?
Go ahead.
So I ran into the same problem. On mine, I put a little red sticker for brake because I'm always stopping at stop signs, brake. Green, I put on that other sticker in the center just because that's a go. I know green is go. And then the white, you can use whatever color. But if you color coordinate it, when you're in the middle of a race, you look down, you can go, oh, red brakes. I've got the right button here. I don't know how often you adjust your brakes, but I don't like to adjust them during the race, but in between races, if I'm in a gutter lane, I'll increase the brake, and I just know it's red. So
that's the gist of my conversation, is to get more knowledge of how and when. I mean, to me, this the TC knob, I can't even fathom how or when I would trigger a need for making those adjustments. And I know there's a lot of people out there that know have that knowledge and everything. Because I race with just my professional motor controllers here at my house, and the only time I take out this DeFalco controller is when I go to a race, and it's so it's 3 times a year, and so getting refamiliarized with it is one thing, and then so anyway, so earlier today again, I reached out to Greg and said, what a great topic would be for the chat would be to again, go for the very, very basics. I call it the slot car controller 101, all the way through the advanced courses of the slot car 405. I don't know what I'm going to, where you have the new Apex controllers that can do parallel parking for you and self-driving and all that.
Make your coffee.
Why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back with that as a topic. We'll be right back after these messages.
That was really cool. Now I understand, John, you have something to show.
I do, yes.
Would love to see it.
One of the new Carrera. I mean, some of the other folks online have been talking about them, and one of the new Camaro ZL1 NASCAR cars, and underneath, the chassis and what have you is same old, but the finish and the thought of another adjective to use, the finish and presence, sort of the tone and everything, color on the finish is just better than anything else I've seen produced.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
Really, really fine. There's one right there.
Carrera has always done really pretty bodies, just really ugly chassis.
Chassis is a Carrera chassis, it's all the same. It weighs, I think weighs about 114 grams in total. The body weighs, I think it's about 40, a little less than 40 grams, 37 or 38 grams. But you can see here.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you hold it in front of yourself, it's perfect. Yeah.
Looks pretty big.
It is a pretty big car.
Mhm.
And it's really, really nice. This is the non-digital version, analog version, whatever you want to call it, which can be easily converted with a chip. But it's really, really nice. And the guys at the down at my local Napa store where I trade auto parts and stuff like that, they really liked it. So where can we get one of those? Of course. Okay, that's it. That's
Don-
all.
Don's got another
Hey,
one.
Don will have to get
Oh,
together.
Don's got one. Yeah, look at that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ally. Isn't that what it is? Yeah. Or Ally. Is that Ally or Ally? Anyway,
I can turn on a light here and make it a little brighter.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that red or purple? I
Wow,
can't really tell.
that's a nice purple.
Is it purple or maroon? What color is it supposed to be?
It is
It's
kind of
purple.
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 Okay.
purple.
Kind of grapey purple, I think.
But mine's digital.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. We're gonna
Yeah.
wrap up the show. We'll stay on and chat afterwards, just in case anybody wants to hang out, and we'll see whether or not Greg uses this video. And we'll catch you guys next week. See ya. Everybody
Okay,
say bye.
thanks, guys.